Great, we're recording.
Awesome. Welcome everybody. Welcome Gab. Welcome Liz. Welcome Pam. We've got a real treat this morning for you with Daniel. Welcome Jenny, nice to see you. Welcome Tessa and Liz. We're going to be kicking off in just 1 minute. Just waiting for everyone to wake up and tune in to this morning's boost. Good morning, Chai and Esther. So we're just going to be kicking off in a couple of minutes. If you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A section, and Daniel will be able to get to those a little bit later. Put your hands up, give us a wave, show us you're there. Nice to see you. We'll be kicking off in just a minute, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining this morning's Bambuddha Boost. Juicy tips, inspiration, and advice to help you and get you through this little challenging period that we're going through. We've got a real treat for you this morning with Daniel Murray, who's going to be giving you all sorts of tips and advice around looking at leadership through a slightly different lens. So I'm going to hand straight over to Daniel today, so he can lead the way with all his beautiful expertise. But a big thank you to from myself and everyone else at Bambuddha Group for joining us and donating this time to be able to inspire people.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for what you guys do, putting this all together and supporting communities in this sort of challenging time that we're all going through. And I want to start by just, I guess, asking everyone, how are you? How are you feeling, and what's going on in your world? I think in these times we sort of rush and we get so frustrated and annoyed and anxious and scared and hopeful, and we go through all these emotions very quickly, but we don't often stop and really think about what's going on for us and how we're going to show up. And it's okay, I think, to admit that we're all going to be struggling a little bit. For me, this is my happy place. This is me at my best, I guess. This is on stage last year at the International Convention Centre here in Sydney, speaking in front of a crowd of almost 2,000 people and talking about empathy and leadership and doing all those things that I love to do. Now, as you can imagine, this isn't happening at the moment. There are no large conferences, there are no large events, there are no gatherings. All the work that I did in training people and working with leadership teams has really dried up. And it's only through groups like this that we're really still able to access and support our communities. So I want to admit to you all today that, yes, we're all struggling a little bit, but I'm also going to challenge you and ask you how you're going to show up, how you're going to be today, and what decisions are what decisions is that state going to let you take, and what actions you're going to take and move forward with. For me today, my objective here is to serve you and to help you as much as I can. And I know this is important because the decisions we make in the next few weeks as leaders will really shape out the next 5 years for all of us. Decisions we make now will have a massive impact on the rest of the next 5 years. It'll have a massive impact on those around us, those we support, our customers, our competitors. It'll have a massive impact on our society. So as leaders, and we're all leaders, as leaders, we need to make a decision on how we're going to turn up and what we're going to do. I want to share with you just 3 simple tips to boost your Wednesday, get you through hump day, ready for a good Friday, hopefully. The first one is we need to really know what matters. Now, in these times, I'm working with a lot of companies on different strategies, and one of the things that's coming up all the time is how do we cut costs? How do we reduce our spending? Where do we make the cuts that we need to? And I think it's okay to say we all really need to. We're all going to need to find ways to do more with less. And that's accelerated through this time of change. But there's a really important tip in here that I think we need to be cautious of. There's an old theory that we understand value by numbers. And I don't necessarily think that that's true. For those of you watching, apologies for having to see my fat bum cycle up the last part of this mountain, but this is Mont Ventoux. This is in France. It's a spectacular mountain, and for any middle-aged man in Lycra, as sad as we are, this is a pinnacle. This is a highlight. This is something that most of us want to do. Mont Ventoux is about 20 kilometres from the bottom to the top. It's extremely steep, and it takes about 2 hours for someone like me to cycle up there. And of course, on this day, it was I'd got the bike. I wasn't alone, though. I had a GoPro and a GPS and a heart rate monitor. I had all this stuff to capture the data of my ride. And what struck me was when I got home and I looked at all this data, it was completely unremarkable. In fact, if you were to look at my data and compare it with all the data of all the other people who'd cycled up Mont Ventoux, and there's thousands each year, mine wasn't special at all. There was nothing that stood out. There was no bumps, there was no extreme speeds, nothing was important in there. And if you were analysing the data, it'd be really easy to look straight past my experience, straight past my piece of data. But what we know is that that's not all that matters. See, for me, this was a highlight of my sad little cycling career. This is as good as it was ever going to get. And I was so proud. I had so much sense of achievement, such a powerful feeling when I got to the top. And none of these devices captured it. So when we're starting to look at how we cut costs, how do we trim our numbers, where do we make the sacrifices, don't just rely on spreadsheets of data. Don't put your people into spreadsheets and just call them FTE. Really make sure we are interrogating what's the real value in the things that we do. I'm actually sitting with our customers, with our stakeholders, with our suppliers, and understanding what real value looks like to them. When we understand this package of real value, it opens up the opportunity to find things that actually some people don't value, and they might not be so obvious in the numbers. So we need to challenge where the numbers really do equal value. The second thing I want to challenge us all to do as leaders is think about the way in which we go about helping others with the things that they need. I worked in large corporates for a long time, and I saw a certain behaviour which didn't work for me. There was something wrong with it, and I wasn't sure how to express it, so I did what any logical person would do, and I wrote a kid's book about it. Let me share. There's a monkey and a rhino, and they lived around this tree. It was a beautiful tree, and they had a really good partnership. You see, the monkey would climb to the very top of the tree and eat the youngest leaves. They were the rhino's favourite. He'd pick those and give them to his friend the rhino. And of course, when the lions would come to attack the monkey, the rhino would shoo them away. So they had this good partnership, and things were going fine. One day, it rained and then it hailed. It had never hailed before. And after the hail had passed, the poor monkey was battered and bruised. He said to the rhino, "Are you okay after that storm?" And the rhino said, "Yeah, I'm fine." The monkey said, "But how come you're okay? I'm battered and bruised. What have I got to do?" And the rhino said, "Well, it's simple. I'm big and tough, and I have thick skin. All you've got to do is toughen up and get thick skin like me." So the monkey went away. He found some mud and clay, put it on his arms and legs, and baked in the sun to get this hard skin. And the rhino was pleased that his friend was going to be safe, also a little annoyed because he couldn't climb to the top of the tree anymore. But he thought he was going to be okay. Anyway, the next day, a storm rolled in. Sadly, the rain washed off much of the mud and clay, and down came the hail, and our poor monkey was left again in the same result. He again said to the rhino, "What am I going to do to survive these storms?" The rhino said, "It's simple. You just got to toughen up and get thick skin like me." He's a bit sad now, our friend the monkey. He went and sat in a tree, and out of the tree, of a small hole, popped a squirrel. The monkey said to the squirrel, "Are you okay after that storm? Do you have thick skin? You don't look like you have thick skin." The squirrel said, "Monkey, I'm fine. You see, we can't all have thick skin. It doesn't work that way. I'm small, so I can hide in this little hole in the tree. You see, monkey, we all have to find our own way to survive these challenges, and it's going to be different for all of us." So they spoke, and the monkey went on a little adventure. And if you want a copy of the kids' book, it is actually a kids' book you can buy. It's a fun adventure for the kids. But at the end of this, the monkey worked out what he needed to do. And as the storm rolled in the next day, he walked over and sat underneath the belly of his friend the rhino and waited out the storm. What we need to do as leaders in these times is really be careful that we help people find their way to work through these problems. I mean, at Empathic Consulting, that's a lot of what we work on at the moment, is understanding what businesses really need and working with leaders to help them find their way through. This is not about telling people to do it the way we would do it. This isn't going to be useful now. And so as a leader, you need to be really cautious about the advice that we give and the suggestions we make. Are they framed only in our reference and would work for us but may not work for others? And how are we supporting these amazing, diverse people who might need different things at different times? Third little tip I want to leave you with today is just around little moments. I think sometimes in leadership, we put this focus on ourselves that the things we need to do have to be grand. The changes we need to make have to be massive and monumental and make front page of the newspaper. And that's just not true. When I was quite young, I grew up fairly poor and I had this desperate desire to go traveling. I found myself in Thailand backpacking. I was on this rickety old train as it was rattling its way back into Bangkok. It was an overnight train. I'd just woken up. I was about 20 years old. You can just imagine the state I was in. And as I woke up, there was a woman in a uniform walking down the middle of the train. She carried a small wooden box and she was collecting money from passengers who'd had some food or drinks on the train overnight. And as she approached me, I pulled out my wallet and realised that I had no more cash. Now, between being in a foreign country, tired, and a whole bunch of other things, I had this wave of anxiety and concern sweep over me. This little voice in my head saying, "You stupid kid. Why did you go and do this? You shouldn't even be here in the first place. Now you're going to be in trouble in this foreign country. What an idiot." And all of this tension and anxiety must have been building and showing in my face. Because as she approached me, something changed in her face. She turned around, she walked back down the train. She pulled her purse out of a small compartment. She took out about 300 baht, maybe 10 Australian dollars. She put it in the box. She winked at me, and as she walked past, she just touched me on the shoulder and kept on walking. Now, I don't know how much money you make walking up and down the trains collecting money, but I do know it's not enough to pay for the meal for some stupid kid from Australia. But in that moment, she saw a person in crisis and she knew she had an opportunity to help. And she did. And these tiny little moments can make massive differences. You see, many years later, I knew I needed to pay this beautiful woman back in some way, and I didn't know how. But I found this beautiful charity called Hands Across the Water, and for the last 10 years, 11 years now, I've been traveling back to Thailand and supporting this beautiful charity. We build homes in many remote places in Thailand and support kids who otherwise would be on the streets or worse. And so my main takeaway here is, as a leader, when you really want to help, it doesn't need to be grand. When you see people in need, just reach out. It can be a small token of appreciation, of support, of offer, of kindness, because these things can have an incredible impact for years to come. I never got to say thanks to that woman, but I love to think that I've thanked her time and time again through the support I've given back to these kids. And underpinning all of this as a leader, one of the things I really want to emphasize is that we don't need you to be a hero. You don't have to bunker down, put all this weight on your shoulders and try and make it all work. This isn't about some superstar coming up with the perfect ideas and the perfect solutions. What we need at the moment is each other. So if you need help, reach out. There's lots of people here who want to help you. I'm going to pause now. That's your 15 minutes of conversation, and I want to open up for any questions and comments that you might have. I really want to thank you all for coming along this morning for your Wednesday boost.
Okay. Do we have any questions? I'm looking in the chat box now. Is there any questions that anybody's got for Daniel? Let's have a little look. Everyone's being pretty quiet. I feel like they might be feeling very motivated. And oh, we've got one here. Oh, just a thank you from Jenny. Well, thank you very, very much, Daniel. It's really, really generous of you to give us some of your time. You're a very highly sought after speaker, and we're very lucky to have you. If anybody does want to contact Daniel, if their teams need a little bit of motivating, if the leadership team needs a little bit of love in this time so they can keep giving love to others, there's Daniel's details. Do reach out. And we definitely would love to see you again at another time, Daniel, hopefully face to face and with a massive hug. If you do want to tune in again tomorrow, we've got another boost for you, and we're going to be looking at crisis communication with Trudy Johnson. So tune in for that. Make sure you have a good day today. Be kind to yourself and each other. It's really, really important. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much. Look forward to connecting with you all. Take care.